So, how far would Gamera from Gamera Rebirth make it in the Monsterverse? Well, first of all, we need to know his scale. His highest calculated speed that we've ever seen was him reaching escape velocity, which is around Mach 33, which is high hypersonic and above the majority of the Titans within the Monsterverse. His strongest attack comes out to around moon level, well, around just under moon level actually, but since this attack wouldn't really scale to his base, his highest attack we've seen in just his standard base only comes around to multi-continental, which is still pretty impressive. For just straight up durability, it kinda scales to his attack potency, but not to the moon levels of power. So ultimately we get him at high hypersonic speeds and multi-continental attack potency and durability, with the possibility of reaching moon level attack potency with a one final self-destruct level attack. How does this scale to the Titans from the Monsterverse, though? For this, I'm going to be putting him at the Godzilla 2014 movie, seeing how he react to that situation, and then moving him forward if he survives that movie. Starting off with how powerful would Godzilla be at that point? Well, he'd already upscale pretty much King Ghidorah, not the King Ghidorah we see in King of the Monsters, but the King Ghidorah in the past. King Ghidorah in the past has statements that he can do either surface wipe levels of attack or just straight up planet busting. However, I think it's more likely meaning he does surface wipes levels of attack, as they consider him a world destroyer, not necessarily a planet buster. So Godzilla 2014, if it wasn't for the EMP attacks on his atomic breath, he could potentially have approaching low moon levels of attack. Now, you could say this is a bit of highball, and it's honestly more fair to assume that he only has multi-continental, but honestly, he could scale to pretty high right off the bat just due to the lore behind him in the Monsterverse. The Mutos both have enough attack potency with their attacks to damage Godzilla. Godzilla at this point has already tanked a meteor that basically wiped all life off the face of the earth. Well, not all of it, but most of it. This meteor would have been stronger than the one that killed the dinosaurs, so that's some pretty impressive durability right there. We also have to talk about Gamera's size, as Gamera is dwarfed by almost every single Titan in the Monsterverse. He's actually shorter than the male Muto is standing up, just for reference. And a lot lighter as well, only at 800 metric tons. Which, for reference, Godzilla would already be 102 times heavier. Which is pretty insane since these two are not all that different in raw power right now. As for how Gamera would actually do in this fight, he'd do extremely well. He'd do better than Godzilla even just because the EMP wouldn't be affecting his attacks. He has more than enough durability and raw power to take down both Mutos from a range if he needed to. However, with Godzilla's help here, as I do think Godzilla and him would team up in this fight, the Mutos are screwed. They have no shot at winning against both of them. After the fight's over, most people would probably assume Godzilla is going to try to make Gamera bend the knee. However, I don't think Godzilla would do this yet. I think Godzilla would leave in order to recharge and allow the EMP effects to wear off. Because after seeing Gamera dispatch Mutos so easily, I think he's going to realize Gamera is a bit of a bigger threat to him than he would have initially thought from just the size difference. This brings us to the next film in the series, Godzilla King of Monsters. Now, do I think Godzilla would have attacked Gamera before this movie? No, I don't think Godzilla would have. Probably because Gamera probably would just be minding his own business far away from Godzilla. Also, I don't think Gamera would want to fight Godzilla in a 1v1 fight. The main reason for this is 1, the obvious size difference, and 2, Godzilla has a far better reaction speed. Gamera can react to hypersonic attacks and arguably react to light, whereas Godzilla has been downright confirmed to be able to react and sometimes dodge light-based attacks. So Godzilla in a fight could just atomic breath Gamera right as the fight starts, and Gamera's not going to have enough time to get back up before he just stomps on his skull and he's dead. Not to say Gamera couldn't win a fight against Godzilla, it would just require him getting the jump on Godzilla first and not the other way around. And even then, it would be much harder for Gamera to beat Godzilla because of the durability difference there. Gamera is not even remotely close to as durable as Godzilla. However, assuming Godzilla and Gamera haven't fought yet, by the time this movie starts, Godzilla's going to go after Ghidorah. I don't know if Gamera would go after Ghidorah at the same time, although it is a possibility. If they both jump Ghidorah in Antarctica, Ghidorah's dying there. He's not living through that. The way I see a 2v1 against Ghidorah and Antarctica going is Godzilla tries to fight Ghidorah, gets a little bit beat up like he did originally. Ghidorah tries to escape, gets immediately spammed with fireballs until he's forced to try to fight Gamera. While he's fighting Gamera, Godzilla just straight up atomic breaths him right in the face, more faces. Gamera is now injured, and Ghidorah is now injured, and Gamera and Godzilla just tag team him until he's dead. After this, Godzilla would probably try to make Gamera submit. If Gamera would submit or not, it's kind of tricky to say. I don't think Gamera would submit normally, but if he knows it's going to basically have less risk for people in the world itself, he might. Ultimately, if they fight, once again, it'd be a 50-50, as neither one's getting the jump on the other. Godzilla has the durability and experience advantages, whereas Gamera has the speed and arguably normal attack power advantage at points. As Godzilla's more powerful attacks, well, you can scale them all the way up to Gamera's. His average atomic breath just doesn't seem to carry as much power as what Gamera scales to. Not to say his more powerful ones don't. If Godzilla was to shoot Gamera with an atomic breath like the one that drilled a hole into the Hollow Earth, Gamera's dead. He's not surviving that at all. He's toast. That attack's been calced to moon level at least. And honestly, I've scaled base Monsterverse Godzilla to around small planetary, to just straight up planetary at points, so yeah. Ultimately, I don't think they're going to try to do the whole thing again, because I think Godzilla's just going to be like, yeah, Gamera's kind of useful, and he's not really messing with the planet, and he's not really trying to be an alpha, he's just kind of there. So for now, I don't think they're going to have any issues. By the time Godzilla vs. Kong rolls around, it's a different story. Gamera would probably honestly side with Kong here after seeing Godzilla just seemingly attack a kaiju for no apparent reason whatsoever. Also, when Godzilla's blowing up shit to kill MechaGodzilla without even knowing what MechaGodzilla is, Gamera might try to fight Godzilla then again. But ultimately, if Gamera tries to fight Godzilla in a 1v1, and Godzilla's already in a bloodlusted state, especially if it's the Godzilla vs. Kong version of Godzilla, I do not see Gamera winning there. Unless he fires his little self-destruction beam, which has the potential to insta-kill Godzilla if he hits him in a critical area like his gills or mouth. But Godzilla could also arguably just dodge that, so... And I don't think Gamera's going to fire that on Earth. Well, at least not fire it at something so close to Earth for the risk of it just straight up damaging the planet beyond repair. Ultimately, if Gamera and Kong both team up against Godzilla, Godzilla's probably going to actually kill Kong here, as he would not be holding back at all, because Kong is a threat, just not one Godzilla usually takes seriously, and Gamera is an actual serious threat. So Godzilla would kill Kong almost instantly. He would not care about holding back for his pride or whatever. He's killing Kong. And then he's going after Gamera. Well, him and Gamera are fighting, MechaGodzilla is going to come out, and in the middle of this absolute just clash of titans, MechaGodzilla is getting dominated. Godzilla wouldn't be anywhere near as tired here, and Gamera is arguably as powerful as Godzilla in terms of just raw power, or at the very least getting to his level, plus he's way faster. MechaGodzilla would get murdered. Assuming Gamera stays out of the fight between the two, which he might honestly do just to not piss off Godzilla, he's going to jump in when MechaGodzilla pops up. Godzilla would still be weakened in that fight, but Kong and Gamera together are already enough to kill MechaGodzilla. Godzilla added in is just overkill. Now, as for how he'd do in the new movie that hasn't came out yet, honestly, I think he'd be pretty fine there too. Even though evolved, Godzilla is likely approaching Thermo levels of power, and Kong's definitely stronger now too, not to mention Scar King and Shimu. I don't think Gamera would be completely outclassed yet. Although Gamera Rebirth is definitely weaker than his Showa and even Heisei counterpart, he's still a powerhouse in his own right, and is able to contend in Monsterverse quite well. And unlike his earlier counterparts, I don't think he's going to really seek conflict with Godzilla or other kaiju. Whereas Showa Gamera would not take Godzilla's shit at all and just curb stomp him, and the Heisei Gamera would fight Godzilla in a head-on match. If he'd win or is very debatable. But overall, I think Gamera from Gamera Rebirth would do just fine in the Monsterverse. I don't think he could beat any kaiju in the Monsterverse, but I do think he would survive extremely well there. I think he would cooperate with Godzilla and the other Titans relatively well, and even with him being tremendously smaller than the majority of the Titans there, he would hold his own as one of the stronger characters in the series. Ultimately, the only character I see being a consistent threat to him would be Godzilla himself, but so long as he doesn't actively try to take the leader position from Godzilla and never really shows any interest in being the alpha, him and Godzilla would get along just fine and be an absolutely unstoppable duo in combat. That's how I see Gamera Rebirth doing in the Monsterverse, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.